But he doesn't have to die. Fire doesn't have to come out a year later.
Because of our Tzelem Elokim.
But every day I have my health, it's like you gave it to me anew. Our compass of life is Torah. Torah is the navigation.
Love is in the air, and we are just going to go there and see.
Between what I was seeing with my own eyes.
And change the atmosphere of your home on Shabbos so much. Compass of life is Torah. Torah is the navigation. Boker Tov, welcome back to 10 Minutes of Meaning. As always, we thank our generous series sponsor, Shmuel and Esther Shairos, Lili Nishmas, his father Yaakov Yehuda ben Gedalia, and the schus of Refuah Shlema of her mother Batsheva Bas Bluma Rivka. Also this morning sponsored by our beloved Mira and Jeffrey Gograb and family in memory of her grandfather Nassim ben Shmuel, whose yahrzeit is tomorrow. Vav Adar. As always, help yourself to slushy, coffee, pastry. Big welcome to the distinguished guests who are here as part of the Yarchei Kala hosted by Yeshiva University. As Eyal mentioned, we're in the midst and the final day of our campaign. Super grateful if you watch, listen, read, enjoy, benefit, follow, gain, help us produce, help us distribute, help us share more light, more Torah, more inspiration. BRSonline/global, brsonline.org/global. Okay, this could be the final episode of Iggeres Ramban, our last 10 minutes of the Ramban's letter to his son, the Ramban's letter to each and every one of us. And the Ramban ends off telling his son, Tikra Iggeres Hazos Pam Achas Bashavua Velo Tifchos. Read this letter I'm writing you once a week, velo tivchos, and don't do it any less than that. Consistency, constancy. Now, did the Ramban think so little of his son? Did he think his son had such a poor memory that he had to read a letter once a week? You write an email to your child, and you say, do me a favor, reread this email, print it out. You got to look at it every single week. They go off to yeshiva, seminary, college. You write them a letter and you say, read it once a week. Why is the Ramban telling him, read the letter once a week? And the obvious answer is, just like the Ramchal introduces famously his Mesilas Yesharim, with the worst introduction of all time if you want to sell a book. What does he say in the beginning of his book? That was our last 10 minutes of meaning. We learned the entire Mesilas Yesharim together. And if you want to listen, you can find it all online. And make sure to donate to brsonline.org/global. because you enjoy and benefit from it. But the Ramban writes, could you imagine trying to sell a book? And the introduction to the book, you say, I say nothing new, no novel ideas, nothing impressive, nothing that hasn't been said before. Now buy my book. But that's how Ramchal begins his book. I say nothing new, nothing earth-shattering, nothing breathtaking. But, says the Ramban, here's the key. The things that are the most important and the things that we know already, we're most likely to forget and neglect. And they are the things that need to be most forefront in our mind. In our mind. Ask anyone in this room how much sleep you should get. We all know. Should we be eating the extra cookie or the cookie at all? We all know. Should we speak negatively about others? We all know. Should we hit 7 snooze buttons, procrastinate, struggle to get out of bed? We know the most important. Should we ever raise our voice, lose our patience with our family? We know the most important things. And the ones who say it best and motivate us the most aren't saying something new, but they're saying what we need to hear in a way that we can hear it. And so the Ramban is telling his son, repetition, 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 chazara, 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 motivation, 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 not because I'm saying anything new, but because the things that are the most important are the easiest to neglect. We need to hear them often. So therefore, read this at least once a week, velo sivchos, and not anything less than that. L'kaima, in order to fulfill it, v'laleches b'tamid achar Hashem yizbarach. Now the Ramban again continues to his son. That word, that magic word, maybe sums up everything. It's the ultimate conclusion to an email, to a letter. Why do I want you to read this? L'kaima. Most sons, many children, not yours or mine, but others, their parents tell them something, life lessons, motivation, say, okay, all right, I got it, okay, enough, I heard you. So the Ramban is telling his son, don't give me I read it. Don't even put a check mark next to, I read it once a week. L'kaima, until you execute on it, until you fulfill it, until you follow up with it, then what are we doing over here? So the whole reason, Tikra Iggeres Hazos Pamachas Bashavua Velo Sivchos, read it once a week and no less, L'kaima, in order to put it into practice. And what is he putting into practice? The formula that we've spent a long time learning, namely, Condition yourself to never get angry, never raise your voice ever. Always speak calmly, serenely. Never, if you don't try to manage anger. The way to avoid anger is to always speak calmly. In lieu of anger, the Ramban then writes, your heart is filled with anava, which is the midah mala, the midah tova mikol midos. It is the greatest of all midos. To feel a sense of humility and modesty, to recognize there's Hashem who runs the world. Then you'll never get angry because everything's according to His plan. And instead you'll be filled with Yirah Shamayim. And the whole formula the Ramban is telling his son, really telling each and every one of us. So likaima, don't just read it. How many books are collecting dust on our shelves that we read it and said, wow, what a book that changed my life. And an hour later we forgot what it says and we forgot to put it into practice. The Ramban says read it once a week. Like Glenn Galish, read it once a week. Once a day? How often do you read it? Once a day. Lekaima, to live it. V'laleches batamid. Now that word tamid happens to be the beginning of our Pasha, Pasha's Tetzaveh. You light the menorah, lahalos boner, tamid. And Rashi here on our Pasha says, tamid doesn't mean 24/7. To be a masmid is not 24/7. To be a masmid is whatever you allocate at whatever frequency on whatever schedule, be consistent. Don't miss. Be consistent. We just interviewed, we put it out today, our new behind the bima, Zevi Samet, game-winning championship shot, knocking YU into the NCAA tournament, player of the year of his Division III, extraordinary basketball player, even bigger Ben Torah, in the base medrash. After he won that shot, it went viral, not only the video, the fadeaway three, but then in the base medrash an hour later, the Zevi Samet. So we interviewed him. His schedule up at 5, he is tamid, a masmid. He learns 10 hours a day, practices about 4 hours a day, also squeezes in school. You've got to be a rigid, disciplined, scheduled tamid. And those who said to him, one of the questions I asked, how do you balance ball and being a Ben Torah? And there were those who wanted to make him feel guilty. Drop the basketball thing. And when he did, he said, so then he just found himself being lazy. And his learning was lazy. But when he was driven and rigid, following and pursuing the skill that God gave him in life, it overlapped not only from being his best and having insatiable drive on the court, but also equally in the base medrash. When he wants to give up, he said, on second Seder or night Seder, because he's tired, he says, what do I quit in the middle of the fourth quarter? If I don't quit in the middle of the fourth quarter. When he wants to take off his tefillin and leave davening early, he says, what do I take off my sneakers in the middle of the fourth quarter before the game's over? I never do. I'm not taking off my tefillin either. Tamid. Rashi says tamid doesn't mean 24/7. Tamid means to always be consistent, to never give up. Laman tatzliach b'chol derachecha. In order to find success in all. Now the Ramban doesn't say to his son, so you're successful in the base medrash, so you're successful in the shul, so you're successful when you're steiging, so you're successful. No, b'chol derachecha. Every one of us will leave shul, and we have a derech. Derech might take us to the supermarket, to the gym, to the boardroom, or the operating room, or the courtroom, or wherever going in life. So leman tatzlich, to find success, b'chol derachecha. By the way, some of the hardest room in the world is our living room. It was hard, the dining room. These are the hardest rooms in the world to put this into practice. L'kaima, to never raise our voice, to live with humility, to make space for others, to surrender and recognize it's all from Hashem. Laman tatzliach b'chol derachecha, to have success in whatever derech, wherever our journey is taking us next. V'tizke la'olam haba hatzafam l'tzadikim, and to merit olam haba that is reserved for the righteous. U'v'chol yom shetekrena, and every day that you read my letter. Now again, the Ramban, you could read this and be like, wow, how desperate is he to make his letter famous? He didn't post his letter on Twitter. He didn't sell his letter in the airport, his book in the airport bookstore. This is a private letter to his son. How we have it is Yad Hashem. This is a private letter. He's telling his son, please read it. And every day you read it, Yanucha min hashamayim. Every day you read my letter. It's not that the reading the letter is a skula. You can't read the Ramban's letter, then cheat in business, skip shul, and abusive to your wife and kids, and then Hashem's going to answer you. No. Laman yanucha min hashamayim. Hashem will answer us when we practice and fulfill and execute what it says in the letter. Ooh, yanucha min hashamayim. You'll see Hashem answering you right away. The house will be a peaceful home. There'll be peace, serenity, success. You'll have a greater physical, mental, spiritual health. You'll be more serene, tranquil, calm. That'll bring out bracha, shefa bracha, blessing. Kasher yala alipcha lishol olam. Amen. Sela hadran alach. With this we end the Iggeres Rabbis and the Mirz Hashem Bli Neder, our new 10 minutes of meaning that we begin next week. Drum roll, please. I hesitate a little bit. I made a deal with the Shtibel Minyan. If they meet their goal for the global campaign, they made a big commitment. If you want to help Shtibel Minyan, they committed collectively, their team, 200,000. Well on our way under the fearless leadership of the Gabbai for Life and founder, Aaron HaKohen Berger. So I said beginning next week we are going to undertake, not that I'm qualified, but we'll learn it together. Starting next week, we begin Tanya. Have a great day. brsonline.org/global. No, next is the English.